Welcome to Reddit News. Like and subscribe or this will eat your cookies. Lawyers. What's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? Probate attorney here. I've had many people ask me when the reading of the will is going to take place. I explain to them that only happens in movies. But one of these days I'm going to have one and hire a mysterious blonde wearing a veil to sit in the corner quietly. Then I'll tell everyone that she inherits everything. Provided, of course, that she must adopt the descendant's cute but troublemaking 6-year-old child no one knew about. Or she can spend the night in a haunted house. Her choice. There will now be a requirement for such a mysterious lady's presence at the reading of my will, written into my will. Along with a handful of burly yet solemn fellows dressed in stereotypical G-man attire, complete with sunglasses and earpieces. One will be Russian, open parentheses, or at least able to fake the accent consistently, close parentheses, and should only be curtly acknowledged by the others. Every one of them should be entirely vague about how they knew me except from business. And the men should all refuse to acknowledge the presence of the veiled woman and feign terror if compelled to look at her. My friends and I have an agreement that if one of us dies, the others hire a good-looking woman in a long black coat and large sunglasses to stand slightly away from everyone at the funeral crying underneath an umbrella, open parentheses, or parasol if it's not raining, clothes parentheses. I'll do it, and I'll throw in long, red fingernails at no additional cost. If you can make your sobs sound vaguely Russian, then you're hired. Sobs in Russian. Ideally, the cost to stage the reading of the will should exactly equal the total amount of the inheritance. Hello, Satan. Hey, buddy. See you soon. R.E. my father who is a lawyer. Policeman cannot lie to you. This is false. They can and they do. Edit. There's so many replies that I cannot even find some of the ones I'd like to respond to, so I want to leave a general note for those who have asked for a reference. Frazier v. Cupp is the Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the legality of deceptive interrogation tactics in 1969. The ruling is still active. I heard you were smuggling animals. What are you, a cop? You know where I can cop some pangolin? It's in the Constitution. It's in the Declaration of Independence. It's in the Magna Carta. It's in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's in the Articles of Confederation. It's in the Mayflower Compact. It's in the 10 Commandments. It's in the Game Manual. It's in the local Boy Scout troop charter. Not quite on point. A lot of people don't understand that co-signing a loan means that you are on the hook for the loan as much as the other person. The car gets repoed and then they are shocked that their wages are getting garnished. Co-signing is not you saying you think your friend is a cool dude who is good for it. You are saying you will pay for it if they don't. And they want you on the hook because they think there is a good chance the main applicant is a deadbeat. Basically, don't co-sign for anybody. That's why I prefer the term guarantor, because you guarantee that you'll pay if the other person can't. This is the common term in the UK. Mainly experienced it for student rent agreements where parents/family sign on to pay if their renter can't. The term gets used a lot if you are renting as a college student here. Hell, I'm 31 and just finished graduate school. I had to have my dad sign as my guarantor everywhere I lived because grad student salary is so low. Good credit doesn't count. Landlords just want to see dollar signs. Here in NYC, you can rent a studio for $2,500, and landlords typically want to see that you have 45 times the monthly rent and salary. So you can be a highly paid employee in a stable job earning $100,000 a year and still need your mom to sign your lease with you. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. Edit. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually illegal nationally for a company to retaliate for discussing wages. They typically just make up some other reason to fire you instead. Make up some other reason, or fire you for no reason at all, as California is an at-will employment state. Even with at-will employment, Wrongful termination is still a thing. You can't be fired for an illegal reason, which includes discrimination based on protected categories, open parentheses, disability, race, gender, age, religion, etc., close parentheses, and retaliation. An employer retaliating against someone for discussing wages with their coworkers is still illegal. And the company can get in trouble if the employee can prove that that's the reason why they were fired. Edit. I'm not saying that it's easy to prove that it's the reason an employee was fired, just that it's still illegal, even in a state with at-will employment. As a former lawyer, open parentheses, UK close parentheses, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime. Unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway, no such offense exists here. Edit. To clarify, I'm talking about it not being a crime in the UK. It may well be elsewhere. Open parentheses, Australia, USA, Germany, and others, close parentheses. Too much American media. It technically is a crime in America, so people think it applies in other places. Even in America. That is on a state level. In some states, it is just on a city level. My dad once got a ticket for jaywalking because he walked around a police car that was stopped at a red light completely obstructing the crosswalk. Edit. Just because people are upvoting, I'll tell you a bit about my dad because I've been thinking a lot about him. He was a great guy, wonderful dad, super generous with time and resources. He always helped whoever needed it. He lost a hidden battle with mental illness in October of 2009. I miss him a lot. I wish I could talk to him again. Tell him how life is. Invite him over to see our new house. Go on a walk with him through the woods. Thanks for listening, Reddit. My friend when I visited the UK, open parentheses, from Canada, close parentheses. You can cross the streets anywhere here. The police won't stop you. Also, no driver will stop you to cross. Opposite here. Visited the US from the UK. One day a cop informed me that I couldn't cross the road there. I was so confused. That's when I learned what jaywalking was. Such an alien law for a British person. It's an alien law to a lot of Americans too. I think it's only a thing in cities. It might be technically illegal outside of big cities, but I don't think anybody cares, or even really thinks about it. Makes sense. Miami was where the cop warned me. He saw a friend and I cross the road from his patrol car and warned us as we walked by him. He didn't seem too fussed, to be honest. Almost as if he was warning us to keep in mind that other cops take it more seriously. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick. If he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. No jury would convict you. No Danish jury would convict him. Well, it sure wouldn't be the Finns either. Us Nords wouldn't convict. You've got the green. As an American, I have no stake in this, but will gladly sell you guys sticks at a bargain as long as I get to watch you go medieval on a Swede. This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. I would hope not, since every cop drama I've ever watched says the first 48 hours are the most important. If someone has to wait 24 hours, they lost 24 hours of that 48. Certainly in the UK/England and Wales, I think the general rule is how long it would be for that absence to be unusual. Like I tend to get back from work at 7 p.m. If it came to 10 p.m., no one could get hold of me, and no one had seen me, I would probably be missing, despite being in my late 20s and a healthy person. No one wants to lie in a ditch having had a car crash alone for 24 hours because they weren't missing enough. In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's drive, open parentheses, way, close parentheses. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offense, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people as many think that they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. What recourse do you have? In my old London borough, you phone the council and they guarantee to turn up in an hour and tow it away. No questions asked, so long as you can prove you live there. That it's across/in your property and you don't want it there. They tow it and charge the owner for recovery. It's not the same everywhere, but because it's only a civil matter, you can just have it towed away yourself and charge the owner for recovery and storage. If nothing else, it's fly tipping. What is fly tipping? I'm unfamiliar with this idiom. Is it like cow tipping? Illegal disposal of rubbish. I love the way Brits talk/write. I learned of the word rubbish listening to Simon Cowell. Whereas fly pitching is setting up an illegal market stall. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country, and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. Edit. I'm now realizing that this may vary from state to state and county to county. For my case, South Florida generally tolerates 10 over, but is still technically illegal. This comes from the margin of error of speed radars. They have a 5-mile margin of error normally, and thus people feel it is safe to go 5 over. If you're only going 5 over and get a ticket, you should contest it and make sure to ask when the gun was last calibrated. Yeah, that's what my dad told me as well. He was ticketed in the 2000s/late 90s, but that was an isolated incident. South Florida drivers normally go 10 over and cops do so as well. As long as you are not holding up traffic or going blazing through the streets, you are fine. Florida is so weird. Last week I was going 15 over the limit and saw a highway patrolman pass me, probably going at least 10 faster than I was. I'm always worried I'm gonna get pulled over, but nobody seems to care. I'm no lawyer, but I don't feel like most of the villains in Scooby-Doo committed any actual crime. I don't think it's against the law to put on a mask and scare some trespassers on your own property. What if there's an abandoned gold mine underneath it? I think it would still belong to the property owner. What if the entrance to the mine is on somebody else's property, but the gold is under yours? Dig a new shaft. In the UK, that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16, open parentheses, beer, wine, cider, clothes parentheses, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home, and they are over the age of 5. Edit. At 16, you have to be accompanied by an adult, and it is paid for by the adult. Thanks, you/Kellusk. You can buy alcohol with a meal, but do restaurants have a final say as to whether or not they'll serve it? Yes. The restaurant chain I used to work at wouldn't sell alcohol to anyone under 18, even if it was just one beer to have with a meal. Probably a good policy, TBH. Used to hate it when a bunch of 18-year-olds would hire out my place's function room for a birthday party. Utter carnage. The drink with a meal thing still needs an accompanying adult with them to technically buy it. They're just entitled to drink it, open parentheses, which they wouldn't be if they were 12, say, close parentheses. No laws against driving barefoot. Mandatory addition. In the US. In Germany, while appropriate footwear is not directly required, you can be found at fault if your choice of footwear or lack thereof leads to your inability to avert an accident. I believe it's the same in Australia. If you have an accident whilst wearing flip-flops, you might struggle with insurance to prove that wearing them didn't cause or add to the causing of the accident. Saw this and immediately went to Google to disprove. But you're absolutely right. I've been told this my entire life and always thought it was dumb. The reasoning everyone always told me was because the vibrations from the pedals would make your foot fall asleep or go numb so you wouldn't have as much control, even though I know so many people who drive barefoot and have never heard one of them say that their foot fell asleep. My mom said, "What if you get in a wreck and have to walk over broken glass?" Yeah, just because it's not illegal doesn't mean it's a good rule to follow. At least have some shoes to put on in case of an emergency. I feel like most people would. If anything, driving barefoot would probably be more safe when you're wearing heels/sandals. Edit. RIP my inbox. I've been in situations where I had to take off my high wedge sandals or heels in order to drive safely. The heels caught under the pedals or would get sort of stuck against the floor mat. Where I'm from, it is illegal to wear flip-flops or heels while driving. I think that's why barefoot driving is legal. My mom's rationale was, 1. If you take off your shoes and leave them on the driver's side floor, they could wedge behind the pedal. Open parentheses. Valid. close parentheses. 2. If a rock or some sharp debris is stuck to the brake pedal, you'll hurt your foot if you have to brake hard. Open parentheses. A little questionable, but okay. Close parentheses. Personally, I don't feel safe driving in heels or flip-flops, so if I'm wearing either, I'll remove them to drive, but I'm careful not to leave them by my feet. Flip-flops is a legal risk because it could slip while you're driving. I drive a manual car, and whenever I wear flip-flops, I can confidently tell you that it's safer to go barefoot. It's impossible to get precise pedal movements when your shoe is bouncing around. Additional scenario. Whenever I'm done snowboarding, I love driving back barefoot because it just feels great. Plus the additional sensory input since my feet are most likely a little numb from the boots. Can confirm the manual car/flip-flop thing. I drive barefoot all summer with my sandals on the floor tucked under my seat. When I drove a manual, I could work the brake/gas fine, but for some reason the clutch always felt beep with sandals on. So I drive around a lot with one sandal on, barefoot clutching it. Exactly. As long as the shoes are tucked somewhere, they won't slide around. I see no problem with barefoot driving.